Hello everyone and welcome back to Butterfly Dreams Crochet and More. My name is Jeannie and today is going to be part 5 of Teach Me How to Crochet. Now if you've been following along, you should have 10 rows of single crochets from part 4. We started out with part 3, learning the slip stitch and the chain. Then on part 4, I showed you how you do single crochets. And at the end of the tutorial for the single crochets, I asked y'all to do 10 rows of single crochets. Now, I also told y'all when you're counting your rows to get a piece of paper and a pencil and make a line every time you complete a row. That would be an easy way to keep up with them. But now that we have 10 rows, I'm going to give y'all some identifiers that will make it very easy to count single crochet rows. If you see where I am slipping this needle in, those are little bumps that form when we complete a row of single crochets. So this is my 10th row right here. This would be my 9th row. When you do 2 rows, it forms these little bars that go across like that you see right there. So if I look at this and I go 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That is 10 rows. So that is an easy way for you to be able to count your single crochets. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to work in the front loop and the back loop of the single crochets. We're going to cover all aspects of the single crochet before we move on to the half double crochet stitch. So anytime we make a stitch, whether it's a single crochet, a half double, or double, we form this little V on the top. Now these are considered loops right here. So when you're looking at your work, this one would be considered your front loop. This one would be considered your back loop. So we have a front loop and we have a back loop. And that is what we're going to learn how to work into today. So I'm going to grab my hook. Now I did change my colors because I was working with a very, very pale pink. And the lighting was making it kind of blown out. And I want to make sure that y'all can see everything really, really well. So I switched over to the Yarn Bee Studio 72 yarn in the color Clay. And I'm going to also show y'all how we change out our yarn from one color to the next when we move to half double crochets. So we've worked our 10th row, got here at the end, we worked our last single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1, and I'm just going to do a refresher row of single crochets. We turn our work. We go right back into this very first stitch right here. And we're going to work just a normal single crochet. Go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 2 loops on our hook, route, and pull through both loops. Remember, in single crochet, we do not yarn over before we insert into the next stitch. After we have 2 loops on our hook, we yarn over and we pull through both. So we're going to complete this row of just all single crochets just to get you back into the swing of working single crochets, which I hope you have been practicing on your singles. And I am using a 6.0 millimeter hook. And if you are just now joining us, you may go back and watch part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4 and get caught up to where we are on part 5. You go into the stitch, you pull up a loop, you wrap, and you pull through both loops. That is a single crochet. All right. We're still going to be using our stitch markers. So I'm going to remove this one, insert, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through both. We just finished our 11th row. And we did that just to do a refresher of single crochets, just in case you haven't touched it since the last video. So now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Now I want to work into the front loop of the single crochet. I'm looking at my work. So this will be my front loop right here. This will be my front loop. If you kind of turn it towards you a little bit, you see your V's. This is our front loop, front loop, front loop, front loop. These would be our back loop. Okay? So your front loop and back loops are determined by which side of the work you are working on. The loop closest to you is always your front loop. So that's our back loop. This is our front loop. We're only going to insert underneath that one stitch. To work a regular single crochet, remember we go through both of the stitches. But for this stitch, we're only going into the front loop. So insert into that front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. And we're going to put our stitch marker right back in that spot. We're going to the next stitch, going into that front loop only, 1 loop on your hook, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. Go into that next front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Go into the next one, front loop only, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. So you can see I'm splitting that V and going right in that front loop only, pulling up a loop, wrap, and pulling through both. We're still making a regular single crochet, but we're only going through that front loop. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through both. Insert into that front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through both. Insert underneath that front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through both. And we're going to continue that all the way to the end of our row. And yes, this does give this crochet a different look, which you will see when we turn our work. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And we're just going to continue that until we get to the end of the row. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And you can turn it over if you need to see the top part of your stitches. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, and pull through 2. Now we're here at our last stitch, and we're going right in that front loop, pull up a loop, route, and pull through 2. Chain 1 and turn. And that caused this entire ridge to form right across the top here. Okay, we're going to do one more row of the front loop. I've chained 1 and turned. Now we're going right back underneath the front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. See our V? This is our back loop right there. We want to go underneath that front loop. Pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And we're going to do that same thing all the way down. I'm going to remove my stitch marker so it doesn't make any noise. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. So when you insert into that front stitch, as long as you have one loop on your hook after you insert into the stitch, you know you have the front loop only. Pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. If you accidentally go underneath both, then you're going to have 2 loops. You're going to have both the front and the back loop on your hook. So if that happens, just back out and split in between the 2. And pull up a loop and pull through. Pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And we're just going to work that all the way to the end. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, route, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Front loop, pull through a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And that is all we're doing. All the way to the end of this row. Front loop, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap and pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap and pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Last stitch, front loop only, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. And that is what it looks like on this side. And this is our first row of front loops. And this is our second row. We don't have that bar on this side, but we have it on the back side, which you'll see when we turn our work. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we have that bar on the back side of the work. So that is the effect that you will get if you work in the back loop. So if I wanted all of my stitches to be like this on that side, you would have worked in the back loop only of that stitch. But we're working on front loop. Now we're going to go to the back loop. So again, this is the front loop and this is the back loop. So the front loop is here, the back loop is here. So we're not going into the front loop. We're going to go right in that back loop and pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. The back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. So these are our back loops, which are a lot easier to work into. And you can just turn your work and see your V's here. And you're going right in that back loop and working a single crochet. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, wrap, and pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. And we're going to do that all the way to the end in that back loop only, working a single crochet. So these are just different ways that you can work single crochets. And if you ever, when you get used to working your single crochets, you learn the half double, the double, and all the other stitches that I'm going to teach you, you will understand if someone says front loop, back loop only, whether it's a double crochet, half double, or a single, you will understand what the front loop and the back loop stitches are. All right, I'm here at the end, and this is my V, and I'm going to go in that back loop, pull up a loop, and pull through both. Now that is what that looks like. Right there. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. And this is what it looks like on that side. Now we're going to go back into the back loop only of that very first stitch and work a single crochet. Back loop only, single crochet. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Back loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. And this is going to give it kind of like a rib effect. If you continue working in the back loop of every stitch for so many rows, it will give you that same real looking effect. Okay, so we're just going into the back loop, pulling up a loop, wrapping and pulling through both loops. Back loop, pull up a loop, pull through both loops. Pull up a loop, route, pull through both loops. Back loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. And continue that until you get to the end. Please pause this video where you need to. Rewatch what you need to. And practice, practice, practice. I'm not going to say practice makes perfect, because I still mess up in crochet as well. And done. So as you can see, it kind of gives it a raised little effect. And if we keep working in the back loop, then we'll get like a ribbed effect on it. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to go back into the front loop only, and work a single crochet. And you're going to work that all the way down to the end of your row. Front loop. And if you look, I'm only catching 1 loop, pulling up a loop, wrapping and pulling through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. Front loop, pull up a loop, wrap, pull through 2. And we're just going to continue doing that all the way down. Front loop, single crochet. And this will show up on a pattern, or people will say in a tutorial, front loop only, single crochet, front loop only half double crochet, front loop only double crochet, and then you know what they're talking about. All stitches have a front loop and a back loop. Okay, then front loop and single, chain 1 and turn. And as you can see here, we have our ridge. Now we're going to work in the back loop. So go into the back loop of that first stitch, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2, and continue working in the back loop only for the next row. And you'll just see the different effects that you can get by working in the back loop and the front loops. Back loop, pull up a loop, route, pull through 2. Back loop, back loop, back loop, back loop, and we're just going to do that all the way to the end. All right, I made it to the end. I'm going to work that last back loop. We're going to chain 1. And now you see how it looks. See how it has the dip here? This is all flat, and this is kind of raised up and kind of thicker. That's the effect that you get. chain 1, turn. Now we're going to work in the front loop. So the loop closest to you is your front loop. So front loop, front loop, front loop, front loop, and work a front loop single crochet all the way to the end. And after this, I want y'all to continue practicing, working on your front loop and back loop single crochets. And after you feel comfortable knowing what the front loop and back loops are, and you work in your single crochets in those indicated loops, I want you to finish off with just a regular row of single crochets where you will work in both loops. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. And that's where you will end off. But I want you to continue working in the front loop and back loops of your stitches until you get used to working them. Chain 1, turn. And now we're going to work into the back loop all the way down. Back loop, back loop, back loop, back loop. So continue doing that all the way down. Working in the back loop, work a single crochet. And you use these stitches a lot when you're working a brim of a hat and you want to have a ribbed effect on it. That's how you achieve that effect, working in the back loops. And it gives these little ridges. All right, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to just work a single crochet row all the way down. Now I'm going underneath both stitches to work my single. Both. Just like that. Both. And we're just going to top this off with 1 regular row of single crochets. Now, how many rows we have is not important. You continue working in the front loop and back loop only until you feel comfortable that you can easily identify what is the front loop and what is the back loop. As long as you have not going to say mastered the single crochet, but you have learned the concept of the single crochet and how to do a single, then you, as long as you can identify what is the front loop and what is the back loop, you can work a single crochet just by going either into the front loop or the back loop only. And we'll end every row at the end of every session with a regular single crochet row until we move on to the half doubles. All right, and you can see here it looks completely different from this down here. So continue working into the front loop and back loop only of the single crochets until you get used to it. And if we flip it over, it looks completely different on this side. You see your ridges here where we worked in the front loops, and then your ridges, your ribbed effect where we worked into the back loop only. Okay, so continue practicing with your front loop and back loop only single crochets, and I will meet y'all back in part 6 where we will be moving on to the half double crochet, and I think y'all going to really like that one. Remember, be kind, remember to smile. Thank you all so much for watching these Teach Me How to Crochet series. I really, really do appreciate each and every one of you all. And if you have any comments or any suggestions or anything like that, please leave them in the comment section of this video. I do read them, and I will make adjustments of whatever I need to do as long as I'm able to. Happy crocheting, happy learning. And I hope y'all are really able to follow along with this really well. Let's identify those loops one more time. So this is the way I'm looking at it. This is your front loop. It's always the loop closest to you. The back loop is the one always furthest away from you. So front loop, back loop. Now that's the row we just worked from right to left. Now let's flip it over as if we was fixing to work the next row. Now, just looking at this, some might think this is the front loop. No. This, and you can flip it over towards you to see your little V on the top. This is your front loop. This is your back loop. Front loop, back loop. Front loop, back loop. Front loop, back loop. Front loop, back loop. That is how you identify your front loop and your back loop. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope I'm able to help teach you how to crochet, even if I only teach one person how to. My job was done, and I will feel very happy knowing that one person learned how to crochet. We'll have another crocheter in the yarning community. Thank you all so much, and until the next video, which will be part 6, and we'll learn how to do the half double crochet, continue practicing on your front loop and back loop only single crochet, and when you feel comfortable, finish off with one row of single crochets. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Until then, bye for now.